Yes, Director.
Before we launch into the agenda, usually we have an approval of the agenda somewhere at other meetings, but I have distributed this release that was on the SRD website last night to everyone. I'd like it to form part of the agenda because I think we need to do something about this.
We'll bring it up under new business?
Under new business?
Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be fine. And we can receive it then. Okay, so can you scroll up a little bit for me, Richard? Doctor? There we go. Okay, so we do have a management report for receipt.
Move receipt.
And speaking to the management report.
I would just like to know, have we made any progress on getting a meeting with Minister Robinson?
The requests have been made. We haven't had a confirmation as of yet.
Okay, so,
But having said that, ministry staff are inquiring or getting background from us, so I'm hoping it's a work in progress.
okay,
Okay.
because, I mean, every month that goes by means we're a little further away from getting the well project done.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
And just to be clear, we have a request at UBCM as well, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So we have two requests in.
Okay, would I be invited to be at that meeting? Would you let me know if you do get an appointment?
Our direction was for a meeting that would include the directors of this committee, yes.
Okay, good.
Not the
thank you.
chairs of the respective
No.
regional districts.
I'll wait to hear when we're going to have a meeting.
Well, quite often, you know, being that we are quite close to Victoria, sometimes
Better.
they favor people coming from Puskupi
Yes.
because it's a longer way to go. Okay, so did we get moved and seconded on that receipt?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor? That carries, thank you. And the next, there's a report, the timing for the Watuco water system decision.
Move receipt of report.
Moved and seconded, and over to CAO.
Thank you very much, and Chris LaRose is here to summarize the report and answer any of your questions.
Grab a mic there, buddy. Okay.
Here's my chair.
Welcome, Chris.
Good morning.
Those, by the way, those glasses add at least 10 points to your IQ.
Fantastic. It's working. Great. All right. Through the CEO and through the chair. So this report is being brought forward at this point in time just as a heads up, as an update and a heads up that we will be bringing forward a more detailed report and a recommendation regarding the Watuco system in September. And the timeline for that decision is very tight, hence the extra step of bringing it forward to you today, just so you know what's coming and that we have a chance to hear from you if there's anything specific that we should be bringing forward to support that recommendation. So just to summarize the report, so in April of this year, a staff report was brought forward through this committee presenting the findings of the feasibility study and the governance study that were completed to investigate the potential of a conversion of the Watuco to a CVRD service. There was several options that were brought forward at that time or discussed. The first one being kind of the business as usual, so Watuco remaining an independent utility, and then two options whereby the Watuco would fall under the CVRD. One would be an independent service area owned and operated by the CVRD, and the second one would be where Watuco would become part of the BCOB system, wherein source water from Watuco would be supplied directly to the BCOB system for treatment. And then at the time we definitely heard loud and clear that there was concern that the Watuco system, that we structure our analysis such that the Watuco system would not become a burden to the BCOB service area. So for those two options where Watuco would become a CVRD service, the committee managing that service would differ. So for option two of those three that I just listed there, Watuco would become its own service area, separate of the BCOB, resulting in management of the Watuco water system falling under the EASC. For option three, Watuco would be managed by the BCOB Services Committee, and it would provide additional source water to the BCOB water system that is experiencing water capacity challenges. and the existing Watuco infrastructure would not become a financial burden to the Black Creek Oyster Bay system. So we're working on developing detailed cost per connections for each of those three options, working towards a recommendation to this committee in September, and also beyond that, the next step in consultation with the residents in that area. So we have committed to, as part of this conversion process, reporting back to them with detailed cost per connections for the essentially two options, staying as a separate service or the kind of the optimal CVRD solution. So back to the beginning of what I said there, we will be bringing forward a recommendation to the BCOB service area in September that either recommends for or against that option 3. And then the intention moving beyond that would be to then bring forward just 2 options to the public for information. So if the staff make the recommendation that the optimal CVRD solution is through the BCOB service, and that option is supported by the committee, then those 2 would go forward, BCOB or go it alone. If it's not supported by the Black Creek Oyster Bay Services Committee or not recommended by staff, then we would take forward the separate CVRD service option and compare that against the go it alone Watuco moving forward. So the staff report does include a timeline. So Watuco has a deadline of December 2020 to comply with the surface water treatment objectives, and that timeline has, that's already the result of several extensions. So it's been communicated as completely inflexible. So it is a very tight timeline. So we are doing our best to navigate through this process in respect of that deadline. So the timeline is that staff report and recommendation in September to the Black Creek Oyster Bay Services Committee. September, October, we would have a second neighborhood information meeting where we would present the results of that analysis, so bringing forward 2 options, the optimal CVRD or the approved CVRD option against the go it alone Watuco. And then in December, if conversion is supported by the CVRD, we would complete an electoral assent process towards the end of this year or early next. Not sure exactly what that would look like yet. It's a fairly small service area, but some type of assent process results which would be provided to the respective committees, and then work to, if conversion is supported, work on the engineering construction in 2020. So at this point, we are still working on that analysis, so we don't have the results yet to share with you. At this point, it is just a heads up that this recommendation will be coming forward in September, and also to inform any discussion that we can have today that could help us bring forward a really effective report to you in September.
Now, just before I take comments from the director, you did mention something about financial burden of the Watuco system joining the Black Creek Oyster Bay. My understanding, and just to be clear, that all costs are borne by the Watuco for the conversion.
Exactly. So that was a concern.
Maybe clarify financial burden.
Sure. So that was we just highlighted that was a concern that we had heard from this committee previously. So thank you for the reminder. I just want to reiterate that the 2 principles that govern our work on this are one that all costs of the conversion would be borne by the Watuco service, so that there would be no financial burden, and that second of all that we would only proceed with it as an expansion of the BCOB service if they were to be bringing water that could be used to help with our capacity issues. So the feasibility study was conclusive in that regard. They do have additional water, and McElhaney in their report did put forth a concept for tying the 2 infiltration galleries together. In other words, it's feasible to connect the 2 sources. And then in addition to not having all of the costs borne by the service area, by Watuco, there is also the prospect of almost $1 million of revenue to the Black Creek Oyster Bay service area from the capital improvement cost charges. So in all the analysis to date, we've included that full payment of the CICCs by the Watuco residents as a line item in the financial analysis, and which as a result, the conversion compared to go it alone and build their own treatment facility is roughly similar, because on the one hand we have payment of the capital improvement cost charges to Black Creek Oyster Bay. It is a similar cost to building their own treatment facility, but there are many other considerations, and that's what we're pulling together for the recommendation in September. But just to respond to your question, yes, absolutely no negative cost impacts to the Black Creek Oyster Bay. That is a principle that's governing our analysis.
Thank you for reiterating that. And Director Lee?
I sort of feel like I'm getting little glimpses of what's going on, but I don't really understand the whole story. The $1 million of capital cost charges and development cost charges, is that from new development associated with the growth node that the CVRD identified for Saratoga Miracle?
No, so that is so right now our CICCs are approximately 6,000 per property. So there's approximately 128 properties in Watuco that are looking to convert. So if they were to be brought into the Black Creek Oyster Bay Water Local Service Area, that's 128 times 6,000, works out to just under $1 million of revenue that would come into the Black Creek Oyster Bay system if we brought Watuco into the fold. So it's not looking at any new development. It's bringing Watuco into. It would be bringing Watuco into the Black Creek Oyster Bay service area.
And then when I read the last part of the report, it said something like December 2019 to 2020, the last bullet, for either service option, work on engineering and construction of the necessary improvements to meet island health requirements. So is that our engineers and our staff and our forces and our money that's going to work on this new infiltration system?
So the way to look at it would be, so in September there will be a decision point. Will this process proceed with Black Creek, with expansion of Black Creek Oyster Bay as the preferred CVRD option, or will it proceed with the preferred CVRD option being a separately managed system down there? So there's two options. So based on the work we've done to date, it appears as though there's a lot more. There's some significant advantages to the option of Black Creek Oyster Bay expanding to include Watuco, but that'll be determined through our recommendation and your decision in September. But beyond September, it will be narrowed down to two. So right now there's three. In September, we will narrow it down to two. But regardless, there will be one of those two that is a CVRD option, whether that's under the EASC or the BCOB. There will be a CVRD option, and staff will be working on the engineering and other details for that CVRD option.
So what if the political people that are elected to represent the service areas, what if we decided not to do anything and let Watuco work out its own problems? Then what?
I can answer the question.
Why aren't they doing their own upgrades to the infiltration gallery?
Ultimately, for Watuco to become a CVRD service, it is a decision made by the elected body, right? Either this committee deciding that it is advantageous for it to be part of BCOB, or the CV.
But what if both of those options weren't options? What if status quo remained? What if both BCOB and CVRD said, Watuco's a private system, they can continue running as a private system? Then what happens? They would have to pay, those people would have to pay for an infiltration gallery, just those 226 homes?
When it comes to private utilities or improvement districts, and when they are facing issues, potentially crisis, it becomes the regional district as the option for them to consider. Ultimately, they themselves have to consider whether they want to convert or not, but it is somewhat a duty of the regional district at the very least to study, to evaluate, to advise the directors as to what the options are and what the costs and benefits and risks are.
But what is the crisis? Nobody's described to me why.
No, I'm not suggesting that this is in a crisis, but what I am saying is that generally speaking across the province, we have this circumstance where we have private utilities, stratas, and improvement districts that are managing water systems. And as regulatory requirements become greater, they're facing the burden of not being able to manage those. So generally speaking, these issues are happening. And when that happens, a regional district is there to evaluate the option of it becoming a regional district service, to advise our directors on the costs, risks, and benefits, so that you can decide whether you want it or not. And in the meantime, the service itself has to decide what's best for them, and they ultimately will decide whether to convert or to continue to go it alone. But this is a case where we were approached by the utility, and there was the potential for either advantages or neutrality in terms of no cost burden to the existing users or otherwise. So we've evaluated it and informed you along the way.
So the crisis is that Island Health has upped their standards and the private owner doesn't want to pay the money to do the infiltration gallery. So they want us to do it.
So Chris can speak a little bit more to the circumstances that Watuco is facing.
Yeah, I'd say that they would definitely characterize it differently. So they being the Watuco system. So and so first of all, just to clarify, it's not the infiltration gallery. So their infiltration gallery is just fine. It's the level of treatment. So the Island Health requires them to satisfy the surface water treatment objectives, which in their case absolutely means installation of filtration. So to date, they've had minimal treatment, just some chlorination, I believe. So they are now required to spend between $800 to $1.3 million on installing a filtration system. That's what would be required. So they have developed a concept, but it is under the BCUC, the British Columbia Utilities Commission framework. It is very challenging for a system like this to raise that level of funding. So that is a major challenge for Watuco, is navigating the rules and regulations around how rates can be changed and borrowing, et cetera, under the BCUC regs is a major challenge for them to undertake within the timing required by Island Health. So that is the crux of their
Are
issue.
they charging us anything for their system if we took it over?
No.
Is there any cost? Like
No.
Mr. Cowling was selling it to us?
No, there's certainly no talk of it being sold. It's a matter of transferring if this were to proceed. And as Russell pointed out, I mean, the report does highlight a decision point. So under December 2019, if conversion is supported by the EASC and or the BCOB. So we have highlighted there will be a final decision point by either or both of those committees prior to undertaking an assent process. So it is very much still in our wheelhouse to determine at the end of the day whether this is a conversion process that we want to support, we being the CVRD.
So we don't know how much it's going to cost to upgrade exactly until you do your studies.
Well,
after.
we've done some. There has been some fairly extensive work done, so we've got a pretty good handle on the costs of upgrading. It's more how those will be, getting into the details about how those will be recovered and what the cost impacts will be to the Watuco residents more than anything. The cost impact to the BCOB service, if that option were pursued, are known. So we've like, as I mentioned, it's under the principle of no cost impacts to the BCOB service, other than the revenue coming in from the capital improvement cost charges.
And the cost of the infiltration gallery.
So their infiltration gallery
Yeah,
is
it's
fine.
there.
It's fine. So the cost of connecting the two that one, we're less clear on who's, that'll be negotiated. If we do decide to join the Watuco system with the Black Creek Oyster Bay, then we need to negotiate who will be paying for that connection. That if it's adding capacity to the BCOB service, there could be an argument for part of that cost being borne by the BCOB service. That portion is yet to be brought forward.
And how would it benefit Area D? Would a drop of that water get across the river to Area D, or?
So a third of the service area of the BCOB is in Area D.
Yeah.
So there'd be a direct benefit through additional capacity and the CICC revenue to those 350 properties.
Capacity would be allocated, or would capacity be allocated to Area D? If Area D was expected to pay into it, would they get anything out of it?
That's, yeah.
Just qualify that if we invest anything into the infiltration galleries, it is the service area that pays, right? It will just be the residents of the service area of the Black Creek Oyster Bay water system. Having said that, if there are interests of other users to connect to that system, they can come forward and make that request of you, and that can be a decision at a later date. But right now, we are managing water supply for the Black Creek Oyster Bay users, not the broader area, not an area outside that service area for Area D, not an area outside that service area for Area C. We manage the system for the benefit of the users of the Black Creek Oyster Bay water system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on a governance level, like I've asked the money questions, but on the governance level, I think we would be crazy to involve an entire board. I've seen what's going on up in Strathcona, where, you know, I've been in favor of this third well project all along, and they have make decisions in places other than the board table, like between chairs of regional districts and other people that don't involve me sitting in on the meetings. And they're making decisions that drastically could affect our BCOB water service without all the information. And they refuse to accept the information. They don't want to hear from anybody at the CVRD. And I've argued strenuously that, you know, they need to listen. And so involving people who are not directly involved in that water supply at the Oyster River, involving areas and other general boards that get to vote on a single service, because I imagine Watuco would become a single service if it went CVRD. It would be an EA service?
It would be part of our electoral area.
Be an
We
EA
have a service committee just for electoral area, right? So
Yeah,
it would be
so
part
do
of
we,
that.
but they never take anything to that. So they consider all of my water, including BCOB, as a single service, but it's not.
Yeah.
They think they can vote on my water systems with BCOB, and it's nothing to do with them at all. So I'm really leery about being involved with people, politicians who sit on boards who are not directly impacted by the decisions being made at the committee level. They're not being impacted, they don't care, they're just reckless with the decisions, and I just think it's wrong to, from a governance point of view, to relinquish control of the water supply to a larger group because of what could happen to, and it would also impact the rest of the BCOB. Say Watuco started drawing out more water for extensions to that water service or something, it could affect our water supply. And right now, crossed the river this morning, and the river's down to almost a trickle. And so it's like ankle deep down there. So we got another couple weeks this August left, and it's looking sketchy, in my opinion. So that river doesn't really have that kind of capacity to supply a growth node. And I said to the SRD, and we rose and reported, so that's why I'm talking about it now.
Good.
I said to them, you know, when the CVRD sent their referrals down regarding their growth nodes in their local area plans, I said, I raised the issue of water where are they gonna get the water from for all this development? And the board at Strathcona ignored it and went ahead and gave it its blessing. And I said, so where did you think the water was gonna come from if you supported a growth node at Saratoga Miracle? The Easter Bunny is gonna bring you water? Where did you think the water would come from? Like, I find it very frustrating to deal with people who aren't intricately involved in overseeing the system, that just come in and do these little kamikaze hits on the system without knowing all the background. So, you know, they supported the growth node, or they didn't object to it when you sent your growth management strategy down to them. And my issue is water then, and my issue is still water, because I worry about, I know the growth node's there, and I worry about Watuco being expanded out to include, you know, 100, 350 unit condominium development down there. And the river and the aquifer cannot sustain that. We cannot sustain that with that river. That river is way too volatile and goes down to nothing in the summer. And when it goes down to nothing, it's right when all the tourists are here too, and they're sucking off the system. So I really feel nervous about letting go of anything to do with the Oyster River water supply to anybody else where I don't have a say or a vote.
Mr. Chair, just regarding that, maybe that's an advantage to Black Creek Oyster Bay eventually agreeing to, you know, take on Watuco, because it then becomes one agency that it's administering the two water licenses, right? And it is local government, and it is this committee. But having said that, we're not at a point of decision today, but responding to your concerns about water supply and managing it appropriately, and to follow with your direction on managing it appropriately. That's, you know, the Jill's Winling study on water supply is helping inform us, and working with FLNRO, Forest Lands Natural Resource Operations, who are the approving authority. You know, we're working closely with them to ensure that that water use is appropriate for what is available from the river system.
So it still has to go through a public process and everything. So, I mean, the title of the report is like timing. It's like pressure to make a decision. I don't think there's any pressure until we get the numbers, present them to the public, see what they think.
Well,
yeah, and the report is, sorry, Chris, is just all about keeping you in the loop, letting you know when decisions may be required, because there are others that will be depending on those decisions and those dates, and informing you on what information we have available now.
And just to be clear, we are highlighting a tight timeline. Our intention is to go forward to the residents with just two options rather than three. So that's why we're pointing to September as the decision point for whether or not this proceeds as an expansion of the BCOB service or as a new EASC service in September. The alternative would be quite a messy consultation with the Watuco residents if we're having to continue talking about two potential CVRD options. So I think that's our approach that's described here, is that we would be bringing forward a recommendation for a decision in September so that we can proceed with the consultation.
Well, personally, I would like to make a motion that we take the CVRD option right off the table, that we pursue this as a BCOB service only and focus on it. And do that, focus on that and present that to them. Involving the entire CVRD is asking for a lot of trouble, because it's outside the water supply area. It's outside of the service area. There could be like potential demands on that system that will affect BCOB if they go ahead. So I would like to take the CVRD option right off the table.
I think the approach that we've got in motion here could effectively do that. But in September, when we have all the information at our fingertips, it would be your decision to decide to not proceed with the EAAC option. So, but at that point in time, at least we would have all of the information at hand. Alternatively, so that's just speaking to the process we have set in motion. If the committee directs otherwise, we are happy to adhere.
I don't know, I can't do it without my friend from Black Creek.
Capacity in the system.
I wouldn't be able to do that without my friend from Black Creek supporting it, taking the CVRD option off the table and just focusing on it as a BCOB initiative.
Okay, just madly trying to find the report that shows the capacity of the Watuco Infiltration Gallery. I believe it was June.
I think it's May. I think I've got it.
Was it May?
That brought forward this year. It was April.
Was April?
Yeah. So.
Oh my God, time flies.
Yeah. April 2019 staff report. What information are you looking for, Chair?
They had a chart showing the water license capacity of the Watuco
Yep.
system.
Yeah, that's right, and showing their consumption on an annual basis over the last several years compared to their license.
I think that would be helpful right now.
It was at the May meeting. I've got the report here. So.
Okay, so yes, I mean, that graph does
Very
show.
somewhere in 17 pace, something.
That graph does show that there is additional capacity right now. What it doesn't show is how much the Watuco consumption would drop once meters are installed on their properties.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Not sure which graph it is, Chris.
Keep going. What's that there, Watuco?
So it just in what is the water license? It's only one license too, right?
So that was, if you go back to that last.
There was
one,
2 licenses, we're only
So
getting one, in my understanding.
Is there 3 total? There's 3 total, but, so they would all be coming along with the conversion. So Pacific Playgrounds would be broken out of the Watuco service and would be,
On their well,
drawing off their well. So we would receive this full license capacity.
which they can't because there'd be a single point of entry, so they can get away with that
Yeah,
for now,
that's my understanding. Yeah.
until the government changes it again.
So what this shows is that there is, although it was over 10 years ago, their consumption was at or near their license capacity. Over the last few years, it has come down.
So I can't quite make it out. What is the license capacity?
It's showing
Of
about
Watuco.
about 150,000 cubic meters per year.
150,000?
Yeah. And so in, say, at the lowest point there in 2014, yeah, to be honest, I'm not sure of the story,
So-
but behind this change in consumption at Watuco.
Okay.
But what we could expect definitely is to see their consumption go down significantly with the installation of meters on.
Usually
on the
does.
service. Yeah.
Okay, and the other question would be, so we have a capacity potentially of adding 150,000 cubic meters a year to the Black Creek Oyster Bay system. So what,
Can you say that again?
150,000 cubic meters per year, which
Yeah.
is the license
Yep.
that we would be acquiring. How does that compare with the license we have right now? What do we,
So right now, it's not all about license capacity. It's also about
Of course.
withdrawal capacity, like just
Yeah,
our
of
ability to
course.
get the water out of our infiltration gallery.
But-
So right now, our license capacity on the infiltration gallery is about just under 500,000. It's 497.
that's license capacity, but
Yeah.
in reality, that
So in reality,
that
we've
thing needs a
struggled.
rotor-rooter anyway, right?
In reality, we've struggled to get anywhere close to that out of the infiltration gallery. So just looking at, in terms of license capacity is not the full story. So that's, this pump test that we did, several pump tests that we did through this analysis of their system did highlight that they have additional withdrawal capacity. So that's really what we'd be after more than this, because we've,
Well, I'm just trying to do comparatives here. Now, potentially with the new well, what would be the withdrawal capacity of the new well? Do we have an idea?
of our new groundwater well.
Yeah,
if
just
that were to proceed.
theoretically, according to our studies.
Yeah, so we look at it more in terms of instantaneous withdrawal rather than its contribution to annual, because we don't ever run any of these sources flat out for the whole year. So it's hard to put it in those numbers, Chair.
So it's more about making it more efficient to get the water out when we need it.
Yeah.
Of course.
So our approach.
What I'm trying to
Yeah.
but frame here
Yeah,
is for our director's benefit would be potentially, what would be the comparative between having that new well go forward
yeah,
or adding the potential of the filtration gallery from the Watuco system
Right.
to the mix?
right.
Would they be comparative at all?
So let's look at it in terms of withdrawal per hour, so meter cube per hour.
Sure.
So the new, so from that perspective, the new production well on our side and the Watuco's well are similar, around 50 or 60 cubic meters per hour of withdrawal rate. And that's because when we talk about meeting summertime capacity, we're talking about meeting our instantaneous demand, because when irrigation systems come on in the summer, even with water restrictions, we see these spikes. So our ability to meet those is, that's why we look at per hour. So the groundwater well and the Watuco well are similar, except, of course, bringing on Watuco's well, which comes along with their demand. So,
Yeah.
so if we look at that graph there and we assume that a quarter or a third of their instantaneous capacity could be available to us.
New capacity for us.
Yeah, so it's about
what I'm trying to
Yeah.
point out is that it would be a net gain.
It's a net gain of about a third of a new groundwater production well.
Okay.
If we were to bring on Watuco net of their own demand. So
Okay.
let's just use that number, a third. So it's like
That's
one third of a.
that's what I'm looking for, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's significant,
It is.
you
It
know.
is.
Well,
And even when you, I'm gonna have the floor for a minute. Even with, even with the Watuco users as well, there's still an added capacity there
Yeah,
that could help those times when we need.
agreed.
Now, and the other thing to point out is that whether, we've heard this before, whether it's from the filtration gallery or whether it's from a well near the river, it's all part of the same water table.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's-
that's important. So but the difference is territorial, that the well and the filtration gallery are on the CVRD side of the river.
The Watuco infiltration gallery, yes,
Okay.
yeah,
Now, when you talk about joining the filtration galleries,
yeah.
is it possible to do that without setting foot on the SRD side of the river?
We're not sure about that. I think it's possible.
I think that's integral in this
Yeah,
discussion,
it's possible.
because that would take it out of the purview of the members of the SRD that think this is a single director system and it falls to the board,
Yeah, but-
which I think they need legal advice on that. They're mistaken. We're trying to get that verification from the province right now. So I think that would be something that I personally would like to see happen. Now, whether or not you can actually join them up under the river, or if you have to bring them ashore to do it, I have no idea engineering-wise.
It would involve directional drilling
Directional drilling,
from the
exactly.
south side of the river, and essentially intercepting the well that connects our infiltration gallery to the treatment system. Yeah, so basically drilling blind under the river and poking into the existing well.
Without one piece of equipment going across that bridge.
No, there would definitely require some equipment on both sides of the river. Yeah. It's,
So-
you could have the majority of the work being happening on the south, but there's no scenario there where you wouldn't need some equipment in the Oyster.
So we
residential
still
area.
need tacit approval here. So we're having this discussion. We have a decision point coming up. And we're not prepared to make that decision because we don't have the information we need.
Yeah, there's nuances there. I think we wouldn't be installing any new infrastructure in the park. So that is a key difference with the current proposed drilling of the well.
We've heard that any change would constitute approval from the other side.
From who?
Yeah.
I think these are all points that you might want to discuss with the minister and just
Oh my
ensure
God,
that
you
we
think?
have.
Okay, the other thing is, just let me finish. So this is not a service with one single director. It has two directors. It's an anomaly in that it spans two regional districts. So therein lies the mistaken assumption. Also, we're not talking about an increase in anybody's water license at this point. We've pretty well heard that may be a no-go from nuances from the ministry during your meeting.
Agreed.
So we're not asking for additional water license from the existing Black Creek Oyster Bay treatment system or from Watuco. So we're just dealing with stuff that's already existing. Obviously, we have to modify it due to situations being exacerbated by climate change, but that's going to happen anyway. That's not something that's going to be contingent on whether or not we go for this system. So really, it's kind of a wash. The price difference, at least preliminary, when I looked at it, were very similar between either a go alone, just to service the existing Watuco system, or joining it up with the Black Creek Oyster Bay, which of course would bring some added capacity into that system and would have economies of scale because you'd only have one system, one governance, one set of people working on a system. So, I get it that the preferred option is probably, I'm not making a decision at this point, and I'm not ruling anything out because we don't have the information, but the preferred option is probably to join the two up. That being said, it's too bad we couldn't do it without having to trespass on supposed sacred ground of another regional district. So, therein lies the rub. If we can find a technology that can go around that, certainly if you take it another step further, you could even diagonally drill the bloody well on the other side of the river. So, we don't have the information. We can't make the decision. What was the other thing I wanted to ask? There's one more thing. No, I think I made the point about the fact that the financial burden would be borne by the Watuco users, and if anything, it would be probably a plus to the coffers of the Black Creek Oyster Bay. So, I think we're fairly clear on what would be the best option. What is the most practicable option, on the other hand, may be something else again. So I'm certainly not going to entertain taking anything off the table at this point, but I'd like to know, because there may be some kind of decision pending, what's the absolute farthest out we can push this decision? Are we talking December?
Well, arguably, the December 2020 date that Watuco currently has on their permit to operate is already not achievable. So we've structured a timeline here that's summarized in the report that is as aggressive as we can manage here at the regional district. But any delay to that schedule will be met with fierce opposition from Island Health.
We know what that's about.
Yeah.
But sometimes just trying to attain the compliance is good enough. I mean, it's not like we're intentionally going against, but we're aggressively trying to attain the compliance.
Agreed.
But obviously, in the real world politic, that's unbeknown to the boffins at VHA, it's a little more difficult than just decreeing things
Yeah.
that they can do under their Public Health Act
Understood.
without any consultation.
Understood, but
I'm starting to sound like another director right now.
I guess if we were to consider the prospect of having a decision, the process improvements to the Watuco system hung up on in the same manner as our production well project has been with the SRD over the last few years, that would be just a no-go from Island Health's perspective. So just to state the obvious.
Well, at least we can work with the ministry.
And that's why I think, to your point of not eliminating any options at this point, if that is a prospect, if it's determined that there is no ability to join the two systems without SRD support or approval, and that may drive us in a different direction.
Okay, so we are just,
wanted to say something.
our job is just to receive this report. So
Yeah.
just keep that in mind, and Director Lee.
I just wanted to say that with 150 cubic meters a year that we could achieve from Watuco from a license, and their consumption going down with the installation of meters, Watuco would represent a 30% increase in our water capacity. Just quick arithmetic. And there are 226 homes out of the 990 that we already have, so that's increase of 23%. So
That's
we'd
right.
have 23%.
It's just 128 homes, actually.
Oh, 128. Well, even better then. So our capacity would go away. We would have a net increase in water available with Watuco, quite a remarkable one, probably.
Agreed.
And that might be our way around the third well problem, is just like use Watuco.
But the basic problem doesn't go away. That's gaining permission to access the site.
Well, see, the province created this problem when they split the regional district. And the province ordered that Area D be part of this system because we've always paid for Black Creek Oyster Bay. And that's why they made Area D part of the service, and me, an extraterritorial director on the board here, to protect the interests of the Area D people who are already fully invested on the south end in the BCOB system. And there's a settlement area of about 600 homes down there that rely on BCOB. And the last people that I would ever give authority over water to would be this SRD. I mean, they messed up the northern Area D water system. They're trying to mess up this one. I think it's a conscious effort to deliberately be obstructive with anything Area D. And, because I've been in favor of the project, and I've been telling them that we need to have extra capacity in the summer for storage, and they're being really ignorant.
Well, maybe we could save this discussion for when we receive the correspondence.
But, just so you know, like, I've been defending BCOB down there to the hilt. And they've already made their decisions before they get to the board table, and they just block voted. That's what they did.
Well, let's speak to that when we talk about
Yeah.
the letter. So I'm going to call a question on receipt of the report. All in favor? That carries. And before we get to new business, I'm just going to take a quick break. Stretch my legs, as they say. Be right back. And we are on new business. Do we have anything, Director, under new business?
Yes, we have a press release that appeared on the SRD website last night. And the big headline at the top was no additional well coming to the Oyster River Nature Park. I just cut and pasted it, so that's why it doesn't look like it did on the, oh, there's the SRD website.
But it's on their letterhead.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
on the SRD website on their letterhead. And I just cut and pasted it, and it looks like they distributed it to the GOAT radio. So, they're now saying, Michelle Babchuk's now saying that they're saying no because they want to protect the ecological values of the Oyster River. And before they were saying they were opposing it because they wanted to have some of our water, send some of our water north. So they changed their story at the last meeting. Quite a few people, like I got quite a few emails from BCOB side of the river, but I don't know how authentic they were. They were form letters that were online, I think, engineered by one person. And a lot of the people that sent letters, there's like 30 of them. Did you get them?
Do you mean,
Please proceed with the third well.
what's his name? Yeah,
Ross.
Ross, yeah.
Neil Ross.
Neil Ross.
Please proceed with the third well, while some of them were duplicates and
It's been
some
going
of
on
them-
since January, that one.
Yeah, but they're all a note from the south side of the river, and so some people are getting fired up down there. I haven't got a single letter from north of the Oyster about the third well, like nothing. They probably don't even know it's happening.
I'm sure they sleep content at night knowing that the director's all over it.
Yeah, and they know I'm in favor of it, because I've been really upfront that I'm in favor of the third well. So I just wonder if we just ignore them, or we put out our own press release. Because I finally got them to rise and report on the whole issue, and then she slammed out this right away over the weekend. And that was on Wednesday, we had a board meeting last week. It was between Wednesday evening and now. They've got it on their website and out to the media. So,
Well, I would support a motion that we direct our CAO to verify or maybe clarify the response with SRD, staff to staff. That be best way forward, do you think?
Yes, that probably would be the best way forward. Just at a glimpse, this represents a new or different position to us that hasn't been communicated to us previously, and it would be well worth getting an update from Strathcona Regional District, and I can contact their CAO for that and report back to you at the next meeting.
Yeah, because they seem to be wrapping themselves in the cloak of eco-righteousness right now, so
well,
might be a different opportunity to argue that we are
And I would
conscious.
I'd just like to, I think you need to know this, that I received an email from the Strathcona Regional District previously on this matter and asking for the Comox Valley Regional District to show discretion in the matter because they had been considering this in camera. As you know, this matter has only been debated and discussed in public meetings at the
Yes.
BCOB, and all the reports that we have presented have been copied to the Strathcona Regional District. But in the most recent communications to me, the statement is that it is inappropriate to communicate information to the public at this time. So I do need to seek some clarity from the Strathcona Regional District as to how we can work together on this matter, because
it's
that's
inappropriate
what
for
we're
you,
trying.
but not them.
That's what I'll seek clarification on.
What I find disturbing is Babchuk's statement, the importance of ensuring that existing users have sufficient supply of water while at the same time protecting the environmental concerns of Oyster River is the SRD's position. They have zero business in the supply of water to BCOB. Zero business. They have no vote, they have no voice, they have no say. I don't report to them on that because it's part of the CVRD business. We've done everything correctly at this table. We've done everything in the open. There hasn't been any secretive meetings, but this down that way is all subterfuge and all just, you know, I don't know where they're coming from at all. Because they come in with, I believe, electronically decided positions on things directed by Babchak and Leach. And I tell them that I'm in favor of the project, that it, you know, we won't be drawing down the river more than necessary, and we have the option of turning the well off if it was being drawn down. We're conscious of how the river works, and that service, BCOB's been running very well without their assistance for 42 years, and they still interfere. Like, I don't see the point of engaging with them at all. We're doing everything right. We need to go see the minister.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair and Director, just to keep you up to date, we have made a request to meet with the minister, and whether it's at UBCM or in advance of that, and that would be a meeting in which the two of you would attend as well. So we'll let you know as soon as anything has been arranged.
I would personally think the best option here is to keep on the high road and hold our fire. We have all the reports that we have CC'd the SRD on to show that we have done the utmost due diligence on the engineering and projections of water use and protecting the ecosystem. So I think, you know, we've got, to keep our powder dry, we got lots of information that could counter a lot of this misinformation. That being said, I certainly don't want to get in a bun fight right now. I don't think it's going to be helpful. Again, we've got the meeting scheduled, well, not scheduled, but requested, and hopefully that will bring a lot of clarity to the ministry on what's going on. But I think that, you know, we can certainly compile some kind of response when the appropriate time comes.
I'm just concerned that the public will read this and think that me, as the RED director, is not concerned about the environment and is not concerned about their water supply.
Do you not have the option then, as a director, to put a letter together on your letterhead from Area D expressing your views on this and your support of the well?
I could do a newsletter, but I mean,
Because personally, you know, from your, because
I just
it
don't
sounds
think
like a
it's-
lot of the misinformation stems from,
all they actually voted on at the meeting on Thursday, which we rose and reported on, was the fact that they don't want to hear from the CAO of the CVRD and they don't want to hear from you. They said, no, we don't want any delegations. That's what they voted on. No, they don't want information. They don't care about the truth. The truth doesn't matter. It's just how they manipulate the situation to make it look like they're going to save the whole system and make it work. They don't care about the truth, you know, and I think we need to just carry on with business down here. And maybe we don't, I mean, it was posted on Facebook, this thing, and there's a slot down there for comments on Facebook, and I don't touch it. I'm not commenting, I'm not getting into any bun fights with them, because it's not their business. BCOB is not any of their business. They shouldn't be making any remarks about it.
once again, I think it goes to our advantage to keep on the high road here and to make sure that any responses that come from the Black Creek Oyster Bay service are crafted and don't have any inappropriate tone. And in the end of the day, I think that will serve us in good advantage if it ever comes down to engaging the ministry or engaging the courts on this matter. So we can point to
several
like I
attempts
say,
to
all
contact.
our efforts to be forthcoming and transparent and above board and nothing in camera. So, you know, all that works to our advantage. So I agree. So we're on receipt. We will take it for receipt, and I guess the CAO is going to clarify Strathcona's position, and when it comes time to present our case at the appropriate time, in the appropriate arena, then we'll do that. So, anything, you want to press something?
Just wanted to clarify if a resolution was going to be put forward to direct staff to clarify the position, or if it was just basically direction. Okay.
Direction of
Okay.
staff.
Okay.
Okay, so on receipt. Call the question, all in favor? That carries. No other new business, no media questions. I will entertain a motion to terminate.
So moved.
Seconded, all in favor? Thank you very much, everyone, for coming out. Thanks, staff, for their